Tonight, in our coverage, Toronto police issue an apology for a podcast episode featuring two officers discussing increasing interest in Islam since the onset of the Gaza war. Assalamu alaikum and good evening. This is Muslim News Canada on Muslim Network TV. I'm Elia Batul. The Canadian government has announced retaliatory tariffs today on nearly $30 billion worth of American goods in response to the Trump administration's tariffs on Canadian steel and aluminum. Finance Minister Dominic LeBlanc condemns the U.S. tariffs as unjustified, warning they can disrupt one of the world's strongest trading relationships. Canada's countermeasures target products including American-made steel and aluminum, computers, sports equipment, and cast iron items. This latest round of tariffs adds to Canada's existing duties on $30 billion worth of U.S. imports implemented after earlier American trade actions. Ottawa has also signaled readiness to impose additional tariffs on $125 billion in American goods if President Trump proceeds with further tariffs scheduled for April 2nd. Industry Minister François-Philippe Champagne says the American tariffs would negatively impact U.S. industries due to their significant dependence on Canadian metals. Champagne says Canada needs to enhance self-reliance as trade uncertainties with the U.S. remain. Canadian officials, including LeBlanc and Ontario Premier Doug Ford, will meet with senior U.S. trade representatives in Washington to seek a rollback of tariffs and de-escalation of tensions. Prime Minister-designate Mark Carney has expressed willingness to engage with President Trump directly. However, he has emphasized discussions must be based on mutual respect for Canadian sovereignty. Canadians are overwhelmingly against an upcoming pay raise for members of Parliament set for April 1st. On the same day, a government tax on fuel and emissions is set to increase. A new poll commissioned by the Canadian Taxpayers Federation shows that 79% of respondents oppose the automatic salary hike. Currently, MPs earn a base salary of $203,100. With the pay raise, they will receive an additional $6,700. Cabinet ministers and the Prime Minister, who earn significantly more, will see even bigger raises. The Prime Minister's salary will increase by $13,400. The raises are tied to a formula based on wage increases in large public sector companies. Critics argue that given the ongoing cost of living crisis, tax hikes, and economic struggles, this raise is unfair to taxpayers. Franco Terrazzano, economic policy analyst, slams the move. Terrazzano says MPs shouldn't be taking more money from Canadians struggling to make ends meet. Historically, MP salaries haven't always been automatically increasing. Under Stephen Harper's government, salaries were frozen from 2010 to 2013 due to the global financial crisis. Canada's Prime Minister-designate Mark Carney is calling for immediate humanitarian support for Palestinians. He is urging Israel to restore essential supplies, including electricity, to Gaza and to respect international law. In a post on X, Carney says electricity has been disconnected from Gaza for over 2 days. He says vital supplies like food, electricity, and medicine should never become political bargaining chips. Carney has emphasized the urgent need for both sides to secure the release of all hostages and fully implement the ceasefire agreement. Carney says Canada must collaborate with international partners to uphold international law, promote lasting peace in the Middle East, and ensure Palestinian families have full access to humanitarian assistance. In previous statements, Carney criticized Trump's proposal to occupy Gaza and expressed support for an independent Palestinian state. Despite a truce, Israeli attacks have killed at least 8 Palestinians overnight in Gaza, including 1 child. Palestinian media says Israeli gunboats shelled northern Gaza. Soldiers also opened fire in Rafah and Khan Yunis, with videos showing soldiers shooting randomly in city streets. In a separate incident, an airstrike killed 5 people, including 2 brothers. Palestinian officials say Israel has violated the ceasefire by increasing attacks over the past 10 days. Reports show 137 Palestinians have been killed since the truce began in January. In the occupied West Bank, Israeli forces demolished the home of Ali Khalil, accused of carrying out a shooting in 2023. Khalil was killed in an Israeli airstrike last year. Troops raided Qalqilia and blew up Khalil's 3-story house. Hamas has announced new negotiations with Israel as a U.S. envoy arrived in Qatar. Israel has returned 5 Lebanese prisoners and plans new border talks with Lebanon. Israel says its troops will remain indefinitely in occupied Syrian territory. In East Jerusalem, Israeli police raided the educational bookshop and confiscated books related to Palestine or the occupation. This is the second such raid in a month. More than 111,927 have been wounded in Gaza since October 2023. Thousands remain missing under rubble and are presumed dead. This raises the estimated total deaths to more than 61,700. Toronto police have deleted a podcast episode after backlash from the Jewish community over comments made by an officer. The episode features 2 Muslim liaison officers discussing the Hamas attacks and subsequent Israeli aggression in the Project Olive Branch podcast. One officer stated that following Israeli aggression in Palestine in October 2023, more people have been studying Islam. He claimed the violence has led to an increase in people converting to Islam, while his colleague nodded in agreement. The podcast caused severe backlash on social media from pro-Israel supporters. Mainstream media was quick to portray the conversation between the officers as crediting Hamas attacks on civilians. Following the controversy, Toronto Police Chief Myron Dimkew issued an apology in a statement. He has reaffirmed the force's commitment to protecting the Jewish community. The podcast episode has now been removed. After 9 hours of talks in Jeddah, Saudi Arabia, Ukraine has agreed to a U.S. proposed 30-day ceasefire. At the time of broadcast, Russia has yet to officially comment and awaits further details from U.S. officials. President Donald Trump will soon speak with Russian President Vladimir Putin, and Trump's envoy Steve Witkoff is set to visit Moscow this week. However, convincing Putin, who previously opposed short-term ceasefires, could be challenging. This comes as Russia currently has a military advantage in Ukraine, notably in the Kursk region. Details on enforcing and monitoring the ceasefire have not been disclosed. The U.S. has resumed military aid and intelligence sharing with Ukraine, reversing its suspension from the previous week. An international expert group previously proposed a 10 to 15 kilometer military-free buffer zone, potentially overseen by peacekeepers. Ukraine initially suggested deploying up to 200,000 peacekeepers, but experts see this as impractical. A smaller mission involving approximately 10,000 military personnel along with civilian monitors is considered more feasible. Human rights groups are pressuring the United Nations to investigate its Myanmar envoy, Julie Bishop, over alleged ties to Chinese firms. This comes as a report by an Australian weekly. The Saturday paper highlights links between Bishop's consulting firms and Chinese mining and construction companies. The report alleges Bishop's firm reportedly advised a rare earths company with Chinese backing. Activist group Justice for Myanmar has urged UN Secretary General Antonio Guterres to probe these alleged links with posed conflicts of interest. The UN confirmed receiving the complaint, but has not responded further. Bishop, who is a former Australian foreign minister, has not commented on the allegations. Her firm has stated it offers strategic advice, but does not take fiduciary or executive roles. Burma has been in civil war since 2021 with China, a major economic and military backer of the ruling junta. Australian police have revealed that a widely reported antisemitic terrorism incident was actually a criminal hoax designed to create chaos and divert police resources. The incident involved a trailer loaded with explosives near Sydney in January. Police say the explosives were never meant to detonate. Instead, criminals staged it to manipulate authorities. The incident follows months of anti-Semitic crimes, including synagogue attacks and hate graffiti. but police now believe that these were orchestrated by a small criminal group, possibly just one person. 14 suspects were arrested on Monday. Authorities suspect overseas involvement but haven't identified those responsible. The criminals may have staged the hoax to gain leverage with police in other cases. Despite this twist, reports suggest that anti-Semitic incidents have surged in Australia since Israel's war in Gaza began. Reports jumped from 490 in a year to 662 in just 2 months. In response, Australia banned Nazi salutes and hate symbols in January. Police say the worst incident were not driven by hate. However, they acknowledge the Jewish community remains shaken. And now for some special news for those living in the GTA. There are not one, but 2 separate events taking place in March. So mark your calendars and be sure to attend with your family, neighbors, and friends. The GTA Ramadan Festival presents Ronak-e-Ramadan, a special weekend of Ramadan celebration. Note the place and time on your screens. The event will be held on Saturday and Sunday, March 15 and 16 at Red Rose Convention Center, Mississauga. Special highlights include free gift hampers for the first 200 families, 3,000 free giveaways, and hold your breath, there is a free diamond ring in the mix as well. The event will be open from 12 noon to Sahur, with loads of sensational halal delicacies to enjoy, a special children's segment called the Kids Story Time, and a Knot in the Sheath competition for you to showcase your talent. And remember, entry is free on both days. So see you there, inshallah. That's all from our Toronto studios. Thank you for watching Muslim News Canada. We are a community channel dedicated to bringing you stories you can trust. Please like, share, and subscribe to our content. You can also comment to let us know what you think of our coverage. You can donate now by visiting muslimnetwork.tv/donate. For more content, keep watching Muslim Network TV.